Good morning, everybody. This is Jason Butt with the UGAsports.com quick take. Tuesday, everybody. Happy Tuesday. And that just means we're one day closer to number 1 Georgia and number 2 Tennessee. What a showdown this will be. We have just entered November. I hope everybody had a wonderful Halloween with their kids. Got some great candy out there trick-or-treating. So wish everybody the best on that front. But, hey, let's get right into it. And let's just cut to the chase. Is this going to be a shootout? Are we going to see, what the future or the present, however you want to say, of college football is all about, where defense doesn't win championships despite having NFL-type defenders that Georgia does? We saw Alabama. Alabama has the best defender in the nation in Will Anderson, and Tennessee put 52 on him. Granted that Alabama's defense as a whole, it just has not been as strong or as consistent as it has in the past. Georgia's, however, as well, it's not been like last year's. It has been pretty consistent for the most part in terms of being, one of, if not the best unit in all of college football. But does this have the makings of a shootout? And I keep going back and forth on this. But let's just go through the numbers here, and we'll just do the basics. We don't need to do all the super analytics and expected points and all that crap. I mean, let's just get right down to it. I mean, SEC in terms of scoring per game, Tennessee leads obviously 49.4 per game. They just beat Kentucky 44-6. I mean, nobody's coming. Nobody's really slowing them down at all. But at the same time, Georgia. While Georgia started the year off as this wide open pass first offense, and the run game hadn't come along yet, it has caught up, and you're seeing Georgia's run game just running over, just overpowering opponents. There was a tweet of the clip of the Florida fan who said our first string safety bouncing off of a third string running back. You see Branson Robinson closing out the fourth quarter, just bowling through dudes. So. The Georgia run game's coming through. Stetson Bennett doesn't have his best performance against Florida and still throws for over 300 yards. So Georgia's right up there, only 8 points less per game than Tennessee. And then you look at the yardage, and Tennessee, 553 yards per game, Georgia, 530.1 yards per game. It's pretty remarkable where these two teams are offensively. Tennessee just slightly ahead yardage-wise. But this is where things get a little bit different. And we go to scoring defense. Georgia is only giving up 10.5 points per game. But does that really mean much? Because Alabama, which gave up 52 to Tennessee, is averaging 16.6 points per game. So, I'm not sure that this is a number that you can really take into great consideration, even though it does seem – this is why I say it gets interesting. You look at it and you think, okay, well – Georgia's defense is stopping everybody, but so is Alabama's for the most part, outside of Tennessee. Now, Tennessee's scoring defense, 21 points per game. That's pretty standard across the board. You break it down into then rushing offense. Georgia, Tennessee, again, right around the same area. Georgia's up to 202 a game. Tennessee, 199.6. Rushing defense, however, Georgia only giving up 85 yards per game. Tennessee, right there, 92.8 rushing yards allowed per game defensively. Now, the Tennessee, and of course, Tennessee passing offense, 353, Georgia, 328. These are truly the two best teams in the country when you look at it statistically. But then where you see the biggest discrepancy, much like I noted that Georgia had a great advantage in the run game against Florida, to which they did, as you saw in the second half. They were able to, even when things got dicey in the third quarter, Georgia's rushing attack turned it on. Kenny McIntosh and Dejan Edwards did their thing. And then, of course, Branson Robinson, as I mentioned, closed it out. This is the difference in this game. And we'll probably touch on this even more so in more detail. But the biggest difference is Georgia, 177 passing yards allowed per game. Tennessee, 300. Now, I say that knowing that Alabama allowing only 201 passing yards per game. They obviously let Hendon Hooker go wild, and Tennessee did whatever they wanted at home, against this Alabama team. Now, Georgia. So Georgia at 177 allowed a game. Again, these are numbers that you can't really. It's hard to just say, okay, well, there's Georgia's got this great defensive unit, and therefore they're going to slow Tennessee down. Nobody slowed Tennessee down. I mean, this Tennessee offense is just it's built differently. The fact that they run so fast, the plays is what I mean. The fact that they get play after play after play so incredibly fast that's really the problem, because if they get rolling, then it's just one of those things where it's hard to stop. You have to get them into third down, third and longs early in their drives, and you have to hope to stack a couple of those early while scoring on your own and making sure that you outscore. I put all those numbers out there, and I come to this conclusion. And obviously, I threw in Alabama as kind of that other indicator, because Georgia and Alabama have similar numbers. Georgia is slightly ahead of Alabama in those numbers, and it's because of Tennessee. It's because of what Tennessee did to Alabama, as we all know. The SEC is you look at it top to bottom, and yes, I still think that when you look at all teams, the SEC is still the best overall conference. But once you get past Georgia, and the fact that Tennessee is in this group now is quite remarkable. Once you get past Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, there is a considerable drop-off, in my opinion. You don't have those elite level teams in the SEC outside of those three. It has been two. Tennessee, at least for this year, is joining the mix. They've been able to put together just a fantastic roster, especially offensively. So here's what I make out of all of this. And it starts with Stetson Bennett on offense. So defensively, you're going to have to deal with whether it's a bust in the back end, whether it's a miscommunication, whether it's a run that gets reeled off. I don't think Georgia's defense, now if they do it, great. I don't think Georgia's defense is going to be able to slow down Tennessee the way that they've slowed down everybody else. So I look at the game starting with Stetson Bennett. It's going to be in his hands if Georgia's going to win this game. And therefore, you're kind of seeing it throughout the week. You saw Kirby Smart, asked about Stetson Bennett and the mistakes he made against Florida, and he is talking them up. He's trying to build that confidence, trying to make sure he stays upbeat, which I don't think that'll be hard to do. But he can't have those kind of mistakes. You can't get Tennessee short fields. You can't get Tennessee extra opportunities. So you have to be a little more careful with the ball. But then the trick is you can't have those decisions, but you also have to be aggressive. This is where when you're a championship team and you're playing a team that's also potentially a championship team, just the margin for error gets incredibly slim. And so that's why I do think if Georgia's going to win this game, there will be a lot of points on the scoreboard. This will more than likely not be a kind of game that you're looking at Georgia's defense, at least early on, saying, okay, get some stops and build your lead and then salt the game with the run game. I don't see that happening. And that's not to say that Georgia can't win this type of game. I mean, last year when Alabama beat them in the SEC championship, you put that on the defense because the offense did its part for them, and kept them in. Of course, Stetson Bennett had those mistakes, but the Georgia defense, given its elite standing, given what it had done, and the breakdowns it had against Alabama, those were just really unforeseen. And then, of course, you saw the Georgia defense, how they really could play against a team like Alabama in the national championship. They don't have that group this year. So I do expect, and so last year where the expectations were really high for the defense, that's not the case right now. No fault to their own. It's just you saw the NFL prospects that were just drafted this past year. So you look at this game, I think Hendon Hooker, he's probably going to cross 300. I think that Tennessee has a great chance of going 500 total yards. I think for Georgia, it's the ability to match and the ability of getting key stops on key drives here and there, forcing field goals instead of touchdowns. I think this is going to be more of an NFL type of game where while the score might be higher than an NFL score, I think really what's going to come down to is trading touchdowns for field goals. Whereas Georgia is going to need to be in a position where they are consistently scoring touchdowns when they have their successful offensive possessions to Tennessee's field goals. And you like given the fact that Tennessee hasn't been able to slow down anybody through the air, really outside of Kentucky last week, I guess, with only 6 points and maybe some. But even UT Martin, I think, put up a few touchdowns on them. But given the fact that Tennessee hasn't had the ability to slow down people through the air, especially the better quarterbacks, you do like Georgia's chances of moving the ball vertically. You like Todd Monken being able to scheme up some things to get his receivers involved. You don't have A.D. Mitchell, but Darnell Washington's emergence, he's getting more targeted more and more each game. Brock Bowers is basically a receiver at this point. It's easy, yeah, but like he can obviously come down and block as a tight end on run plays. He's essentially a receiver. You do like that. So trading touchdowns for field goals, limiting mistakes. Maybe give yourself the leeway of one turnover, and I think Georgia has a good chance to win this game. They just did the margin of error in this game compared to, say, last week against Florida, where you had a third quarter where you give up an immediate touchdown and then you have back-to-back turnovers. That can't happen in this game. If that happens in this game, Georgia's going to be in trouble and rallying in the fourth quarter. So the premise of this YouTube, is a shootout brewing in Sanford Stadium this weekend? Yes, 100%. I think we're going to see a lot of points on the scoreboard. I think it should be a wild game, a fun game, and may the best team win. And on that note, I will close out this daily this episode of the UGAsports.com Quick Take. And just wanted to thank everybody for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed, please do that. If you haven't signed up at UGAsports.com to the dog vent, please do that. And I just wanted to say you guys have been awesome. And I've been Jason Butt. Y'all take care.